Okay, so you're probably here thinking about your future, right?
Yeah, your financial future.
Exactly. And with how things have been going lately,
Mm.
like we've all seen how quickly things can change. And
Mm.
you probably want to feel more in control, I bet.
Of course.
Yeah, so maybe you're thinking about diversifying your retirement savings, right?
Absolutely.
So one of the things that keeps popping up that people are talking about is this thing called a Gold IRA. Have you heard about this?
Yeah, gold IRAs are getting a lot of attention, and for good reason.
Yeah, it seems like a lot of people are looking at this as a way to maybe make their savings a little bit more stable.
Right, especially with all the ups and downs in the market these days.
Yeah, people want something they can actually hold something tangible, right?
Exactly. Gold has always had this kind of inherent value that makes people feel secure, especially when everything else seems uncertain.
Yeah, like it's a real thing.
Yeah, right. It's not just numbers on a screen.
Exactly. So for all of you out there who are thinking about this and maybe feeling a little overwhelmed with like, where to even start?
It can be a lot to take in.
Yeah, we're going to break it all down today.
We're going to do a deep dive.
Yes, a deep dive into converting a traditional IRA into a gold IRA.
All right, let's get into it.
So to guide us on this journey, we're using a guide by Doug Young.
Oh, yeah, Doug Young.
Yeah, he's a real pro in the world of financial investing, and he knows a lot about precious metals. So
He's definitely the guy you want to learn from when it comes to this stuff.
yeah, for sure. And our mission today is to really boil it down to the essentials just for you.
We're going to take all the need-to-know info from Doug's guide and make it super clear and easy to understand.
Exactly. No unnecessary jargon or confusing details. Just the stuff you need to know to make an informed decision.
So you can figure out if a gold IRA is right for you.
That's the goal. So let's jump right in.
Let's do it.
All right, so first things first, why would someone even want to convert their traditional IRA to a gold IRA? What's the big idea here?
Well, it boils down to two main things, really diversification and protection.
Okay.
You see, when you move some of your retirement savings into precious metals.
We're talking gold, silver, platinum, palladium.
Exactly. You're spreading your risk. You're not putting all your eggs in one basket, right?
Makes sense.
And historically, precious metals have been a good hedge against inflation.
Meaning they tend to hold their value even when the buying power of like regular money goes down.
Exactly. So you're potentially protecting your savings from losing value over time.
That's pretty appealing, especially with all the talk about inflation these days.
Right. It's a way to potentially safeguard your purchasing power.
So to do this, to hold these physical metals and still have the tax benefits of an IRA.
You need to open something called a self-directed IRA.
Okay.
And this is where gold IRA companies and custodians come in. They're the experts who can help you set everything up.
So it's not as simple as just buying some gold coins and sticking them in your current IRA.
Not quite. There are some specific steps involved, and Doug's guide outlines those really clearly.
That's what we're here for, to break it all down.
Absolutely. So step one, and this is crucial, is evaluating your current IRA type.
Okay.
Not all IRAs are created equal. You need to figure out if your current plan allows you to either roll over or transfer your funds into a self-directed IRA.
Because that's the type of IRA that can hold physical precious metals, right?
Exactly.
So which types of IRAs usually work for this?
Typically traditional IRAs, Roth IRAs, SEP IRAs, and simple IRAs.
Got it.
These generally allow you to move your money around, but it's always a good idea to double-check with your specific plan provider.
Yeah, you don't want to assume anything.
Never assume, especially when it comes to finances.
All right, so first step, know what kind of IRA you have and what you can do with it.
What you can do with it, exactly.
What's next?
All right, step two. This is a big one. You got to choose a reliable gold IRA company.
Okay.
Think of them as your partners in this whole process. They'll help you set up your new gold IRA account, guide you through the funding process, and even assist you in choosing and buying the precious metals you want.
So they handle a lot of the heavy lifting.
They really do. And Doug points out in his guide that these companies manage a huge chunk of the gold IRA procedure, something like 95% of the paperwork involved.
That's a lot.
It is, and it takes a lot of the stress off your shoulders.
Speaking of recommendations, Doug has a few, doesn't he?
He does. He highlights 3 companies that he considers top-notch.
Augusta, Precious Metals Gold Co., and an American Hartford Gold.
Those are the ones?
Okay, so Augusta Precious Metals.
They have a stellar reputation. No complaints ever filed with the Better Business Bureau or the Business Consumer Alliance.
Wow, that's impressive.
It shows a real commitment to customer satisfaction.
And Gold Co.
They're known for having a really high percentage of satisfied customers, so you can feel confident that you're in good hands.
Okay, so another solid choice.
And then there's American Hartford Gold. They're relatively new to the scene, but they've quickly become a leader in the gold IRA space.
So a rising star.
You could say that.
Okay, so we've checked our IRA and we found a Gold IRA company to work with. What's step 3?
All right, step 3 is all about choosing a custodian who knows their stuff when it comes to gold IRAs.
Okay, so what's a custodian exactly?
Basically, the IRS requires that the physical precious metals in your gold IRA have to be held by a licensed custodian.
So you can't just keep the gold at home?
Nope, definitely not. It has to be stored with a custodian to maintain the tax advantages of the IRA.
And not all custodians are created equal, right?
Right, you want one that specializes in gold IRAs because the rules and regulations can be a bit tricky.
I bet. So it sounds like finding the right custodian is pretty important.
It really is. And the good news is your gold IRA company can usually recommend a custodian they trust and have a good working relationship with.
That makes sense. I mean, they probably deal with this all the time.
Exactly. So it can streamline the whole process.
All right, so we've got our IRA company or custodian.
Hmm?
Now we need to actually get the money into the new Gold IRA.
That's step 4, and there are 2 ways to do it, a transfer or a rollover.
Okay, so what's the difference?
A direct transfer is the simplest way your funds move straight from your current IRA to the new gold IRA without you ever touching them.
And that's usually tax-free, right?
Exactly.
What about a rollover?
A rollover involves you actually withdrawing the funds from your current IRA.
Okay.
But here's the catch. You have to redeposit that money into the new gold IRA within 60 days.
Oh, wow. So there's a strict deadline.
Very strict. If you miss that deadline, the IRS could treat the withdrawal as a taxable event, and you might end up owing taxes and penalties.
Yikes. So a direct transfer sounds a lot less risky.
It generally is, but regardless of which method you choose, Doug recommends getting in touch with your current IRA custodian to start the process.
And the Gold IRA company can help with the paperwork, right?
Absolutely, they'll guide you every step of the way.
Okay, so the money's in the new account now for the fun part, picking out the precious metals.
Right, that's step 5, choosing and purchasing approved precious metals.
And the IRS has rules about what kind of metals can be held in a Gold IRA, right?
They do. You can have gold, silver, platinum, and palladium.
But it has to be in specific forms, like certain coins and bars.
Exactly, and they have to meet certain purity standards.
So if I have like a rare gold coin from my grandfather's collection, that might not qualify.
Probably not, but the good news is your gold IRA company knows all the rules inside and out.
So they'll make sure I don't buy anything that would get me in trouble with the IRS.
Exactly. They'll only offer you metals that meet the IRS criteria for gold IRAs.
That's reassuring.
It is peace of mind is important.
Okay, we've chosen our metals, we've bought them now. Where do they go?
That brings us to step 6, storing your precious metals.
And I'm guessing I can't just keep them in my sock drawer.
You guess right. The IRS is very specific about this. The metals have to be stored in an approved depository.
So like a high security vault.
Exactly. And it has to be managed by a licensed custodian.
So I can't keep it in my safe deposit box at the bank.
Nope. That's a no-go too.
So it's all about keeping things safe and secure and following those IRS rules. Okay, so those are the 6 steps to convert your IRA to a Gold IRA. But before someone takes the plunge, what are some things Doug highlights that they should really think about?
He mentioned some important considerations, and the first one is taxes.
Of course.
You got to be aware of the tax implications and any potential penalties.
Right. You don't want to get hit with a surprise tax bill.
Nobody wants that. So while direct transfers are generally not taxable, if you're converting from a traditional IRA to a Roth Gold IRA, you'll likely have to pay income taxes on the amount you convert.
Okay, so it's important to talk to a tax advisor to figure out the specifics for your situation.
Absolutely. A good tax advisor can save you a lot of headaches.
What else should people be thinking about?
Well, another big one is understanding the IRS guidelines for gold IRAs.
We've talked about eligible metals and storage, but are there other rules people need to be aware of?
Yeah, the IRS is very particular about the purity standards of the metals, and you have to use an approved depository for storage.
So it's not just about doing things right, it's about doing things the IRS's way.
Exactly, and your gold IRA company and custodian should be experts in these regulations so they can keep you on the right track.
Okay, so following the rules is crucial. What else?
Well, there are also costs involved in setting up and maintaining a gold IRA.
Right, everything has a price tag.
That's true. You'll have fees for setting up the account, annual maintenance fees, storage fees, and maybe even transaction fees when you buy or sell your metals.
So it's important to factor all those costs into your decision-making.
Absolutely. You need to make sure a gold IRA makes financial sense for you.
All right, so we've talked about taxes, IRS rules, and costs. What about liquidity? How easy is it to turn your gold back into cash if you need it?
That's a great question, and it's another important consideration. Gold isn't quite as liquid as, say, stocks or bonds.
So it might take a little longer to sell, and there might be fees involved.
Right, it's not something you can easily cash out overnight.
So if you need quick access to your money, a gold IRA might not be the best option.
That's something to keep in mind. But on the flip side, gold has some pretty compelling benefits that make it an attractive option for many people.
Like what?
Well, first of all, diversification, we've talked about this, but it's worth repeating. Having gold in your portfolio can help reduce your overall risk.
Especially during times of economic uncertainty.
Exactly. Gold tends to hold its value or even go up in price when other investments are struggling.
So it's like a safety net.
In a way, yes. And then there's inflation protection.
Right, we talked about that too. Gold's historic ability to hold its value during periods of high inflation.
Exactly. So it can help preserve your purchasing power when the value of the dollar is declining.
And there's one more benefit, right?
Yes. The fact that gold is a tangible asset.
It's a real thing you can hold.
Exactly. Unlike stocks or bonds, which are just pieces of paper, gold is something you can physically own.
And that can be very appealing to some people, especially in today's world where so much is digital.
It gives you a sense of security and control over your investment.
It's like owning a piece of history.
In a way, gold has been a valuable commodity for centuries.
Okay, so we've covered the steps, the considerations, the benefits. Now, what's the long-term perspective on gold IRAs?
Doug emphasizes that gold should be part of a diversified portfolio, not your only investment.
So it's not about going all in on gold.
Right. It's about balance. You want a mix of different assets like stocks, bonds, and maybe even real estate.
And Doug highlights how gold has performed during past economic crises.
He does. He uses the 2008 financial crisis as an example.
When the stock market was crashing.
Exactly. And during that time, gold actually went up in value.
So it kind of acted as a safe haven.
It did, and that's one of the reasons why people are drawn to gold, especially when there's a lot of uncertainty in the world.
Makes sense. So what's the outlook for gold in the future?
The guide suggests a cautiously optimistic outlook.
Okay.
There's still a lot of economic uncertainty out there, and central banks around the world are holding on to their gold reserve.
So there's continued demand.
Right. And there's also a growing interest in ethically sourced gold, which could further boost its value.
But again, it's all about balance and diversification.
Exactly.
Now, before we wrap up, Doug's guide addresses some frequently asked questions,
Yeah, he covers some of the things that people often wonder about.
like taxes, for instance.
Right. He confirms that direct transfers from a traditional IRA to a gold IRA are generally not taxable.
But converting from a traditional to a Roth Gold IRA is a different story.
Right. You'll likely have to pay taxes on the amount you convert.
So it's always best to talk to a tax advisor.
Always.
And another common question is about storage.
Right. People want to know where their gold is actually being kept.
And the answer is
An IRS-approved depository managed by a custodian.
no exceptions.
Nope, you can't keep it at home or in a regular safe deposit box.
So it's all about security and following those IRS rules.
Exactly.
And one last question. Can you take physical possession of a gold in your gold IRA?
Unfortunately, no. Yeah, if you take possession of the gold, the IRS considers it a distribution.
And that means?
Taxes and possibly penalties if you're not old enough to withdraw from your IRA yet.
So the gold has to stay with the custodian.
It does to maintain its tax advantage status.
All right.
It's all about following those IRS rules.
All right, so to sum up everything we've learned today about converting a traditional IRA to a gold IRA, using Doug Young's guide as our roadmap.
It's a way to diversify your retirement savings, potentially protect yourself against inflation, and own a tangible asset that has held value for centuries.
And it's a 6-step process that involves choosing the right gold IRA company, finding a custodian, moving your funds, picking out your metals, and making sure they're stored correctly.
But it's not a decision to be made lightly. You have to consider the tax implications, the IRS regulations, the costs involved, and how easily you can access your money if you need it.
Exactly. It's about making an informed decision that aligns with your individual financial goals.
Absolutely.
So for all of you listening, we encourage you to think about everything we've discussed today.
And if a gold IRA seems like something you'd want to explore further, do your research, talk to financial advisors, and make sure it's the right fit for you.
And here's something to ponder as you continue your financial journey in a world that's increasingly digital.
Where everything seems to be moving online.
Exactly. How might incorporating a little bit of something tangible, something real like precious metals, contribute to your overall peace of mind and the long-term stability of your portfolio?
It's a question worth asking yourself.
It is, because ultimately it's all about creating a secure and resilient financial future for yourself.
A future where you feel confident and prepared no matter what challenges come your way.
Well said. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the world of gold IRAs.
It's been a pleasure.
Until next time, take care.
Take care.
Bye.